and make sure that you are open to page 32. Please make sure your book is on your desk. Make sure that you are sitting in a good listening position and your face shield is on. Okay. I am going to start because this Bible verse is written in not as kid-friendly language. So I will read first so that you can understand. So we are starting at the top of page 32. Make sure that you are following along with your finger. I will not continue until you are following along with your finger. God's creation. God created the world and everything in it. Wait, why did he create it? Kingston. Very good. To share his goodness and love. Did God have to create the world and everything in it, Ethan? No. Because God has what? Just like we do. Michaela?
A mind, a will, and a body.
Does he have a body? So he has what?
A mind and a will.
He has a mind and a will just like we do. So can anybody force God to do anything he doesn't want to do? No. Just like we can't be forced to do anything we don't want to do. But God wanted to share his goodness and love, so that is why he chose to create the world and everything in it. Let's follow along. We're going to read this Bible verse in the orange block. Make sure you are using your finger to follow along. I will not begin until everybody has their finger ready to follow along. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. That's from Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. So that Bible verse is telling us how God created who or what? Zadie. People. Human beings. Not the angels, which we know are not humans. They are people, but not humans. They are persons. It doesn't tell us how he created the animals and the plants and the sky and the moon and the stars and everything else that we talked about when we did that prayer. It tells us how he created humans. And it says that God gave humans dominion over everything on earth. What do you think, based on this Bible verse, what do you think dominion might mean? Kingston?
The power to use things in the world.
Very good. The power over those things. Very good. Dominion is having power over these other things. So God created humans to have dominion over fish, over birds, over cattle. What is cattle again? Mason? Cows. Sometimes horses are considered cattle. Mostly cows. And over all the earth. What do you think they mean by over all the earth? Victoria?
Like, space.
Is that part of earth? Michaela?
Everything in it.
Especially what? We're naming specific animals. So if he says all the earth, what do you think that means?
All the earth, all the animals in earth.
Okay, well, he's mentioning specific animals, and then he says over all the earth. Aaron?
The earth and everything in it.
Specifically what? You guys are just still being too general. Kingston?
Bugs, fish, birds.
What else? What other living things are there on earth? Victoria? Plants. Because it would take too long to name every single plant. Whereas animals, we can name a few. So like fish, birds, cattle, plants, every creeping thing that creeps upon earth. There's the rest of the animals. Because do plants really creep? No. So there's the rest of the animals. There's the plants. Does it say anything about having dominion over other human beings? No. Let's see if the rest of this page tells us why that is. So humans have dominion or power over all the plants and all the animals and pretty much every non-living thing on Earth. Aaron, please keep reading on page 32. Everybody, finger ready to follow along.
God created.
Wait, I need to see everybody, including your finger, ready to follow along.
God created.
Aaron, we're not done yet. Do you see everybody in the classroom? I need to see everybody's finger ready to follow along. Carla, is your finger ready to follow along? Aaron, go ahead.
God created all things and He made them.
A little slower and a little louder.
He gave everything for us to live.
Oh, you skipped a line. Make sure that you're following with your finger. Your finger is right below the words, not just somewhere around the words. Right below the words. So start with God created again.
God created all things and all human personally. He gave everything to us, the fields, fruit, sun, rain, animals, everything necessary for us to live.
Okay, you're going way too fast. And remember, when you see those long dashes, look at me, please. When you see those long dashes, that means you need to pause for a little longer than usual. It's kind of saying, here's some examples of what we're talking about. It's interrupting the sentence to give us more examples of what they're talking about. So if you see that long dash, you know you need to pause a little longer than usual. And then you know what's going to come after between the dashes are examples of whatever we were talking about. Keep going. Slower.
All that we have is a gift of God's love. When God created the world, He gave Himself to the world He loved. He created us in His image and likeness to do what He does.
A little louder.
When we do what God does, when we do what God does, love our actions.
Remember, you pause when you get to those long lines. That's an example. When we do what God does, love, our actions reflect His actions.
We can act like God because our reflections or images of God. As images of God, we have minds to think and wills to choose, and wills to make choices.
Slow down.
Animals cannot think or choose.
Now let's pause there. Because a lot of you on your test said that there was one statement that says animals do not have minds to think and wills to choose. And a lot of you said that was false. But no, that is true. They do think and they do, but they don't do it the same way we do. They don't have minds and wills like they do. They have something called instinct. They do everything on instinct. So they don't think about their actions before they do them. They feel what they need to do and they do it. So they don't really think about their actions. They don't really choose their actions. They do what their mind and their bodies tell them to do. We actually have this too, but we can choose to listen to our instincts or not. Animals don't choose that. They listen to their instincts, which are things about their scientific things that tell them, I must do this, and then they do it. So they don't have minds and wills like we do, where they actually think about their actions and choose which action they want to do. Their instincts tell, that means they're part of their brain that we do have, but we're able to ignore it, and theirs are actually stronger because that's all they have, whereas we can think and choose other things. So their instincts tell them what to do, and then they do it. Whereas humans have our instincts, we also have outside things that we can think about different options and choose which one is the best for us. Animals just have that one option and that they know of, and they do that. Okay, keep going. Everybody finger ready to follow along. Aaron, read us those first 4 words.
They can only see.
They can only seek. So everybody's finger should be on they can only seek. make sure that your finger is directly below those words, not just somewhere in that area. Because if your finger is somewhere in that area rather than on the word, you still might skip words, you still might skip lines. So make sure it is right on the word that we are currently reading. Okay, Aaron, keep going, loud and slow.
They can only seek food, life, and protection for themselves. Animals act a certain way all the time. They cannot think and they cannot choose how to act or what to do.
That's that instinct. They have one option that they know of, and that's what they do. They don't know that there are other options. That's just how animals are. Their brains are not like ours. They were not made like ours by God, by science, whatever. So they have one option that they just know. Sometimes they are taught it by somebody else, and they do that thing. Okay, make sure your heads are up. Keep going.
We are able to think with our minds and to make choices with our will. What kind of choices have you made today as images of God? What kind of choices have you made today? As images of God, you should try to make right choices.
So what I want you to do right now is on your own, just answer that question in your own brain. What kinds of choices have you made today? Think about them in your own brain. Were they good choices? Do you think God would make the same choice? Were they choices that God doesn't necessarily have? Like what to eat for lunch? So it really doesn't matter either way? Or were they choices where you had a good choice and a bad choice, and did you choose the same choice that God would have made? Think about that for about a minute. Think about the choices you made. Were they good choices? Were they bad choices? Were they just a choice that wasn't good or bad either way? Because we make choices like that aren't good or bad all the time. Like your mom says, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight? Is there a good or a bad choice when it comes to that? Not really. I mean, maybe there's a healthy choice versus an unhealthy choice, but it's not really a good or bad choice. So do we need to worry too much about those choices? But are we lucky that we still have those choices? Otherwise, you could end up eating spaghetti and meatballs every single night for the rest of your life, which you may like spaghetti and meatballs, but probably not for every single night for the rest of your life. So even those choices that don't really have a good or a bad answer, we're still lucky that we get those. Things other than humans, plants and animals, don't really get that. They don't get to think about their choices. They just do what they're supposed to do. Yes, Kingston. Huh? Well, is that if you choose to ask them, that's another choice that you are lucky to have, even if you're choosing to ask or give the choice to somebody else. Maybe you don't want to make that choice in that moment, and that's okay. But you have the option to choose to ask somebody else to make that choice. But could you ask your dog to make that choice? No. I wish we could, but we can't. Ethan, scoot in, pay attention. Okay, Zadie, quickly, then we're going to move on.
Another reason, even if like animals could think, they have to hunt their food. Well, some animals that are in the wild, so they can't really choose.
And that's one of those things with instinct. Like humans can choose whether they want to go hunt for their food or make their food or have somebody else make it for them. Do animals get that choice? No. They just know if they're in the wild, I got to go find my food. Let me go hunt. If they live in a house, they don't have the choice. They just say, oh, my owner gave me food. Let me eat it. Do animals that have lived in a house for a really long time, are they able to go out and start hunting all of a sudden? No. So that's another thing. Animals do things. They do have brains. Their brains just don't work like ours. Scientifically and because God made them that way. Like animals can't talk. They can't think in the same way that we do, where we think about all our options and we make a choice. They just are. Their body tells them what to do, and they do it.
They just go with the flow.
Exactly. They go with the flow, which may be nice. Sometimes that giving us a choice makes it harder, Sometimes it would be nicer if we didn't have a choice, but a lot of times it is nice that we have a choice. Okay, go to the next paragraph, and please read Zari. Please read us the first 4 words of that paragraph so that everybody can find it.
God created the world.
God created the world. So make sure your finger is on God created the world. When I see everybody's finger ready to follow along. Lady, please put your books. Thank you. Okay. Zari, go ahead.
God created the world and everything in it, out of the desire to share his goodness and love.
That's what we learned about pretty much our whole last chapter. That should never leave your mind. Why did God create the earth? Or why did God create the world and everything in it? Smith?
To share his goodness and love.
Very good. Okay, Zari? Well, wait, everybody's finger ready to keep going? Zari, go ahead.
God created many things on earth that we may use and enjoy. He gave us land to grow our food, water for us to drink, animals to help us with our work, and many other things.
This is that word that Mr. Stevens says every morning. Trust in his
providence.
Providence, good.
In his providence, he cares for everything he created, from the thinnest bug to every person on the earth.
Not the thinnest bug. What is that word, Zari?
From the tiniest bug to every person on earth.
Good.
On the earth.
Very good. So God cares for every single thing he created, especially the living things, but even the non-living things like rocks and mountains and streams and rivers and the living things, like everything from the teeniest tiny little bacteria all the way up to humans and the largest animals on earth. He cares for all of it. So what does that mean about what we should be doing? If God cares for every single thing he created, what does that mean about us? Carla?
We would need to take care of everything he made.
We need to take care of it too. We need to care about it too, even the tiniest little bugs, which may be hard for some of us. But God created them, so we should still care about them and try to take care of them. Now, sometimes we do things accidentally, like we feel something buzzing around our face, and we smack it, and it's a mosquito, and it's dead. Or sometimes it's a mosquito, and it's biting us, and it's really, really bad, and we smack it, and it's dead. And yes, God did create that, and we should feel sorry, but I'm still going to do it if it's a mosquito. But I'm going to say, I'm sorry, God. And I'm going to say a little prayer for that mosquito. Because it's one of God's creations, even if it's annoying. It's one of God's creations, so we should still care about it. Even if we do need to get rid of it for our own safety and comfort. But we have that opportunity because God gave us what over all the insects? Zadie?
He gave us, to take care of it.
What is that word? That means we're able to use and take care of every living thing. Victoria? Power. There's another word, not power. Smith?
Dominion.
Dominion means we have power over and can use everything God created, except for one thing, which we will keep reading to find out what that is. There's one thing that we do not have dominion over. Mason, read us the first 4 words of that next paragraph so everybody knows where to put their finger.
One creation of God.
The one creation of God's. And then Mason, when you do read, make sure you read really loud so that the girls at home, the microphone will pick up your voice. And then slow so we can all follow along with you easily. Okay? Okay, everybody's finger ready to follow along on the one creation of God's. Make sure you just have one finger. Make sure it's underneath so you're not covering anything up or causing a shadow. Make sure it is directly underneath the word so you don't accidentally skip. Mason, go ahead. Loud, 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 and slow.
One creation of God that we may not use in person.
So, what is the one creation of God that humans do not have dominion over? Aaron. Other people. Because we only have dominion over one person. And who is that one person that we do each have dominion over? Michaela? Yourselves. Ourselves. I only have dominion over me. Zadie, you only have dominion over Zadie. Ethan, you only have dominion over Ethan. Carla, you only have dominion over Carla. And so on. The only person that you have dominion over is yourself. Which means what? What can we not do? Because we do not have dominion over other people. Zari?
We can't tell them what to do since they have their own choice in you.
Exactly. We cannot tell other people what to do. Now we can tell them what the best choice would be, and we can hope that they make that choice, like in the case of teachers or your parents or priests. We can tell you what the best choice would be, but we cannot force you to follow it. We can give you consequences for not following it, but we cannot force you, because are we in your brains like a little robot controlling what you do? No. Okay, Mason, keep going. Everybody finger where he left off. And I know this sounds funny, but we are saying the word persons over and over and over again. So make sure you are saying persons. Don't let it confuse you to where you think you have to change it. It does say persons. It is supposed to say persons. It's just a different way of speaking. It's more of a, if you're talking about history or things like that, which this is kind of history because we're talking about when God created people, which was a long time ago. Okay, Mason, go ahead.
Persons are made in the image of God.
A little slower. Nice volume, a little slower.
As images of God, we have.
We're going to chunk this. So you haven't been here, but chunking is where, you've probably heard it before. It's where you, what was it?
Dignity.
Very good, dignity. Because chunking is where you try to figure out where each syllable is. You say one syllable at a time, and then you say the whole word. So, dig, knit, e. Dig, knit, e. And then you think, is dig, knit, e a word? But it sounds like a word you know, which is what, Mason? Dignity. Very good. Start that sentence again, just because. Images.
As images of God, we have dignity and we deserve each other's respect.
Good. Keep going. Thanks, and please stop.
As images of God, we should love God and others. Sometimes we fail to love and respect others as we should. We fail when we use people.
Good. So, we have dominion, which means we have the power to use every single bit of God's creation how we want. We have to make sure it's using it with respect. But we have the power to use every single one of God's creations except for what? Zadie? Persons, other people. which means that people have dignity. Who knows what dignity is? What is dignity? Victoria?
It's kind of like you're noble,
Okay.
and it means that you're brave.
Not quite. What it means is if somebody has dignity, sometimes you might describe them, but something having dignity means it's worthy of respect. Humans have dignity, so they are worthy of respect, which means we must give each other respect, even when we don't want to, because we have dignity. That is also why we don't have dominion over people, because we are not allowed to use them. Think about, you've probably heard this term before. Oh, they're just using me. They're not really my friends. They're just using me. What does that mean? You've probably heard that before. Maybe you didn't realize it, but you've probably heard of being used by another person. Zari, what does that mean?
It means that they're not really your friends. Like, they're just trying to use you. They don't want you to be their friends.
Good.
They're just trying to...
They want something from you. So they're pretending to be a friend. Good. That is one way to use somebody. Like, say you have a really cool toy, or you have a swimming pool at your house. And you have these friends that always want to come swim in your pool. But other than when they're swimming in your pool, they don't really talk to you much. And even sometimes when they're at your pool, they may not talk to you very much. They're probably using you to get your pool. They don't really want to be friends with you. They're just using you so that they can swim in the pool. Is that what God wants us to do? No. That is showing dominion over another person, because you're like, well, I get to come over to your house and swim in your pool, but you don't get to be friends with me. And that's using somebody. Victoria, do you have another example?
Yes.
Okay.
So, say that a girl had a really good singing.
A girl has a really good singing voice. Can you girls hear her at home? Or do you want me to repeat? Okay, I'll try to repeat.
It's fine.
And this boy walks up to her and says, "Hey, do you want to do a solo a duet for our project?" And he's just using her to get an A because she has a great voice.
Good. Maybe he doesn't actually want to be friends with her. He acts like he wants to be friends with her, but as soon as the project is over and they've sung their song, what's he probably going to do? Dump her, ignore her, whatever. Good. What about if somebody gets really, really good grades and you're like, ooh, I need a good grade. I'm going to go study with them. I'm going to be like, hey, buddy, can you help me with this test? Or, hey, come sit next to me today. I know I never talked to you, but, you seem really nice. We have a test today, but yeah, it's okay. Come sit right here. And then during the test, you're like, and then after the test is over, you're like, okay, see ya. And then you never speak to them again. These are all ways of using people. Let's go to the next page. And first, we're going to look at these questions on the top of page 33 together. Number 1 says, we have dominion over the animals, the plants, and the things of the world. Dominion means being able to use the things of the world, but not misusing them through vandalism or similar destruction. So even though we're allowed to use plants and animals and mountains and all the other things God created, should we misuse them? Should we use them however we want? No, we should still use them wisely. Over what part of God's creation do we not have dominion? Over what part of God's creation do we not have dominion? Make sure you answer in a complete sentence. Incorporate the question if you're not sure how to answer in a complete sentence. Aaron.
We do not have dominion over
Good. So Aaron incorporated the part of the question that said, over what part of God's creation do we not have dominion? And she said, we do not have dominion. Make sure you're spelling dominion right. I'll make sure I'm spelling dominion right because I think it's, yes, it is O-N, not A-N. We do not have dominion over people. We have dominion over rocks, plants, animals, rivers, whatever. We do not have dominion over people. Yes? Yep, write it in complete sentences. Number 2, why shouldn't we use people? Why shouldn't we use people? Think about it. Aaron, you just answered. Victoria?
Because we would.
Oh, do we start a sentence with because?
Oh, we would.
Incorporate the question. That means you can say we shouldn't use people because.
We shouldn't use people because we are probably doing sin and hurting their feelings.
Okay. But before we even get there, why shouldn't we use people? Why is it a sin? Zadie?
We shouldn't use people because it hurts their feelings
And what do people deserve? What do people have and what do they deserve?
they deserve respect.
So, number 2, we shouldn't use people because they deserve respect. Why else should we not use people? Zari?
They deserve everything that we have. They deserve love.
Okay, so that kind of is included with they deserve respect. But what do humans have? What do people have that means we cannot have dominion? Victoria, what is that word that people have?
They have.
It means that they are deserving of other people's respect, but there's one word.
Dignity.
People have dignity. And there's one more really big reason. Think about how God created us. It makes us different from the plants and the animals and the non-living things that we have dominion over us. How did God create us? Just leave it. That's different from how he created everything else. Zari? Wait, did you answer already? No, you didn't. Go ahead.
Because we have a mind not like how they have it.
Okay, which means, well, why do we have a mind and a will? Because we were created. Carla?
We was created because
Michaela, can you help her out?
We were created in the image of God.
Excellent. We were created in the image of God. Remember, God is a proper noun. It is his name. It is capitalized. So if humans are created in the image of God and we use another human being, who is it like we are using? Michaela? God. We are created in God's image, which means we have a mind and a will, just as God does. That means we have minds to think, which can tell us, hey, that person's being mean. They're using me. Now I'm upset. And we also have a will to choose, which means if somebody takes out their power over us and takes away our will, well, then they're taking away what makes us an image of God. And is that okay ever? To take away somebody's will and make them do what you say and make them think horrible things about themselves? No. That is why we should not use other people. When we do that, we are failing to love and respect God's creation. We are failing to act as images of God because God does what? God does what? For every living and non-living thing on this planet, what does God do? Sorry? Sorry, what is it? Victoria?
He loves it.
He loves. When we use other people, we are not acting as images of God because we're not loving. We're not treating that other person as an image of God because we're taking away their will and we are making them think sad, bad, negative things. Okay, so now what I want you to do is the activity at the bottom of page 33 and the rest of page 34. So what it says, everybody listen, the directions say, read the following stories. In the space provided after each story, answer the question, then explain the answer. So all of the questions say, is so-and-so being used, or is so-and-so using someone else? So you have to say yes or no, and then how? Yes, yes, so-and-so is being used because blah, 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 blah. Make sure you write in complete sentences, or no, so-and-so is not being used because blah, 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 blah. So that's what you're going to do. Complete sentences. Everybody listen. Yes, because blah, 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 blah is not a sentence. Because is yes an independent clause? Does yes have a subject and a predicate? No, it has neither. And because blah, 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 blah is a dependent clause, which means can it be by itself? No, you have to have an independent clause with it. So yes, because they're being nice is not a complete sentence. You have to say, yes, she is being used because they're being mean to her or whatever. But you have to use specific examples. You can't just say they're being mean. You have to say specifically how you know that they are or are not being used. But do not write, yes, because blah, 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 or no, because blah, 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 blah. You need to say, yes, she is being used because blah, 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 or no, she is not being used because blah, 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 blah. Does everybody understand what I'm saying by that? Mason, are you cheating by giving yourself more time than everybody else? Remember, if you work ahead, that means you are technically cheating because you are giving yourself more time than anybody else. Okay, go ahead. You will have 20 minutes to do this. And then we will go ahead and start science. We'll start science late, but that's okay. We can take 2 days for this lesson. Yes, Victoria, did you have a question? Okay. Carla, what's your question? I hope that you were listening to me because I noticed that your hand was up that whole time, and you know that's not allowed because you're not listening to me. Yes, Carla?
My question is, whenever you get to the part you want to answer, is it okay if you add, like, story details?
Yes. Text evidence? Yes. You will probably have to use text evidence.
Okay.
Yes, Mason. Not right now. That has to be done in the morning. That's why you sharpen more than one. Or it can be done after you're finished writing in your planner while you're waiting for me to check. That's why you sharpen like 2 to 4 in the morning. So if one gets dull or breaks, you have backups.